Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where, as always, we believe most high net worth individuals and their professional teams struggle to find great capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to exit your highly appreciated assets tax deferred so you can create, preserve, and grow more wealth. I'm your co-host, Pearson York, filling in for Brett Swarts. In each episode, I'm joined by some of the best wealth, business, and real estate individuals in the world to share ideas, deal stories, inspiration, and leadership strategies. So together we can make complex tax deferrals strategies simple, passive income plans achievable, and reach those financial dreams. We're also streaming on expertcresecrets.com, Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel, the Kingdom Luxury Realty YouTube channel, and our Kingdom Luxury Realty Facebook channel. And I'm super excited about our next guest. He's a serial entrepreneur, been growing and just expanding businesses and directing their growth patterns through just market analysis. And he's actually a real estate investor for a long time and has started a hard money lending fund. And so we're very excited to have Ruben Izgelov in the house. So Ruben, how you doing, my friend?
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Pearson.
You got it, my friend. You got it. So, Ruben, how'd you go from serial entrepreneur to I'm going to start loaning money out?
So it all happened coincidentally, and I got to tell you, it's all due to the American dream. You know, we immigrated to the U.S. In the 90s. I was about 6 years old, and I, lived really modest means. You know, we lived in a one-bedroom apartment with about 9 people, sometimes even 12. Single bedroom, 1 bathroom. So you can imagine what that was like. Went straight into the Department of Education system. Didn't do really that well, although eventually I went into law school, graduated top of my class, but for some reason just struggled a bit in junior high school, and what have you. But nevertheless, I started real estate kind of coincidentally. You know, one of my cousins was actually door knocking at the time. He was buying real estate here in New York. Asked that I visit, go door to door with him. And I was about 13, 14 years old for purposes of being able to help him open doors. Because again, being 13 years old, more doors are opening for you than you being a lot older than that. Got the taste of real estate then, saw what he was doing, saw what he was making. And, going back to school, just thinking, all right, real estate is the place to be. Real estate is the place to go. Eventually, a few years later, dropped out of high school, thought that, education was not for me, went straight into mortgages, originating loans back there in the Wild Wild West, and then ultimately started to buy real estate, buying, fixing, flipping, developing, but then eventually decided that I needed to go back to school, got my undergrad at St. John's University here in Queens, New York, and then ultimately went to law school, graduated top of my class, and all the while I was buying, selling, flipping, and developing. And then eventually, while we were right after graduating law school and taking a bar, I wanted to find a cheaper source of capital for myself on my own projects. The deals were compressing, the returns were compressing. It was hard to find deals. My cost of capital at that time was up the roof. I mean, you won't believe it if I was to tell you I was paying anywhere between 12 to 15% with anywhere between 2 to 5 points. Nowadays, if I tell my borrowers that, they don't even believe it because of our current rates. But
Right.
Nevertheless, wanted to find a cheaper source of capital for myself. Went to a hard money lenders event out in Arizona. Walked in as a real estate investor, developer, and walked out as a private lender. All through back of the napkin type of math. Met with an attorney over there, kind of broke down the business to me real quick. And that was in 2018, March of 2018. And in April of 2018, we made our first loan. And we never looked back since. Since then, we funded a little over $300 million in business purpose loans. These are short-term bridge loans, along with long-term 30-year rental loans. And we are super proud for the trajectory that we have and that we expect, and the growth that we were able to experience.
Awesome. So started out real estate investor, learned the tricks that lending money is a little bit easier and just as lucrative, if not more. And then
Yeah, it's not only easier, it's also more secured. I mean, your first lien position on every single loan. Being an equity play. I mean, look, obviously the returns are a little higher on that front, but a bit more riskier. Here as a lender, we felt, the family capital is more secured being first lien position debt versus an equity play.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So there's you unpacked there's a bunch of stuff to unpack there. What, before I do though, I want to just kind of go back real quick and ask, I believe everyone has a set of spiritual gifts or superpowers or strengths, whatever you want to call them, that allows them to be successful. So what's one or two strengths or superpowers or spiritual gifts that you have that have let you be successful today?
First thing I want to say, I am huge on keeping all my team, my entire team. I view them not as employees, but as family members, right? And each and every one of my team members, again, I hate to say employees, team members, they've all been to my house. They've all visited me. They know my wife, my kids. It's all a matter of making sure that they feel secured, not only where they're working today, but in the future. They know me on a personal level. And I feel that, developing those type of relationships with not only the team that you have working with you day in, day out, but also your other extended team members is very, very important and vital for your growth. So I think just that family atmosphere and relationships that you have and that you're able to develop with your team members, I think is crucial. So I think that's one thing that I'm very proud of. The second is I'm super organized. My guys and my team always tells me my to-do list has a to-do list, right? So, being organized is key for me. And they're right. My to-do lists do have a to-do list. And, I think knowing exactly what you're doing throughout the day, breaking it day by day, hour by hour, I think you're far more productive than just going in and just kind of doing whatever comes first. I think that's more important than anything else.
Yeah, that's it's pretty interesting. So it's just keeping number one, your people squared away and taking care of your people, and then really just staying organized and continuing to. That means I'm sure you're really systematized. You've got a lot of things probably automated. You've built out the SOPs and everything like that. And that probably came from your background, right? And developing and growing businesses.
And I'll tell you this much. I mean, it's a never-ending cycle with technology and systemizations and processes. Just as soon as you think you've systemized something and you've made it perfect, you realize that there's a gap somewhere. There's some improvement that you can add, and it just never ends, which is a good thing, right? That's the purpose of growth, and you're evolving, in your business and growing into different spectrums that you never even expected because of the constant improvement.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So what's the number one secret to getting the best loan?
I got to tell you, the number one secret is a good deal, right? A lot of our borrowers today, especially the new, inexperienced first-time investors, they are really analyzing the deals incorrectly. I think they're looking at it from a perspective of, what's listed on the market today, what are the asking prices versus what is actually sold or has been sold. I think that's very important. Also, I think, a lot of our borrowers today, not a lot, but those who are applying for loans, especially the inexperienced borrowers, they underappreciate and underestimate the cost of construction. Today, supplies, the cost of supplies, the cost of material. I got to tell you, I mean, we have a project of our own right now where I expected, a scope of work and a construction budget of about 100,000, hypothetically speaking, and I'm literally at about 220,000. So I would say that some costs, the cost of supplies, the cost of goods has appreciated tremendously, and I think that a lot of borrowers are underappreciating and underestimating that. So I think just being realistic with your numbers, I think knowing what's a good deal from a bad deal, I think is really key from a lender's perspective and, of course, an investor's perspective, because that, as a lender, would make us feel comfortable knowing that there's meat on the bone and that the borrower knows what he's doing from a perspective of investing, makes us feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. So how are you guys, how are you currently changing with the landscape that's, I don't even know, liquid water right now at this point, right? Like there's nothing here in Washington or, feds are raising rates. How are you guys changing and adapting to that?
Yeah. So look, I mean, a lot of what we used to do, and I would say about 4 months ago, a lot of what we used to do was the 30-year rental loans, right? So our borrowers, they were buying properties, they were using us for the bridge, and we were bridging their acquisition and their construction they would reposition the property, rehab it, rent it out, and then ultimately come back to us for a 30-year loan. That was a very, very common theme. Right. Nowadays, especially with the rates, the way in which they've been increasing, a lot of our borrowers, instead of holding on to the properties, which was their plan, and rightfully so, because of all the inflation and all the appreciation in rents, their plan was to fix up the property and hold on and keep it in their portfolio. But with the rates increasing at the pace and at the rate that it has been increasing, a lot of our borrowers today have been repositioning, and instead of holding on the property into their portfolio, they're flipping it. And I think, from our perspective, when we're underwriting and writing a 30-year loan, we want to be careful in the fact that, we're not closing or locking in a rate at, say, hypothetically 5%, and then having to sell it or put on our line at 7%, because then effectively we're losing money. So, we want to make sure that we're underwriting and writing these loans correctly, especially with the appreciation in an increase in the rates. So we just want to be careful and kind of tread carefully on that perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, no more doing the Burr method right now. You're not letting them cash out refinance at, pulling 40 or 50 in liquidity out of the house and hitting your DTIs too high, or debt to equity is too high, and just keeping that loan to value real streamlined, and kind of encouraging them to liquidate assets instead of hold them.
So we don't encourage them. I mean, we want our borrowers to come back to us instead of one loan. We want them to use us for two loans, right? I mean, it's more lucrative for us on that perspective. But we get their rationale and their way of thinking. Look, it doesn't make sense for them, right? If the rates have increased, at the pace that it has, and I'll tell you right now, 3 months ago, we were locking in loans and closing loans on the 30-year rental for right around, I would say, low 4s, mid 4s. Today, they're right around, I would say, high 5s, low 6s. That, definitely affects your bottom line, especially if you've overpaid on the property at the acquisition because of the rate of inflation, or because you've overpaid on the construction because of the rate of the way in which, material has gone up. So, a lot of our borrowers, instead of holding on to the property, they decide themselves to flip it. And a lot of them are actually okay with the rates being where they are. If they're able to cash out up to 75%, not only taking out the liquidity and the equity they put into the deal, but also in addition to that, cash out their additional equity they've built, it makes sense. And I think being the purpose and really the subject of your podcast, it makes more sense for them to take that equity through a refinance than to sell it. Because even if they were to sell it and they make more money, at the sale after taxes, I mean, they probably netted the same amount as if they were to hold on to the property, and take a lower LTV on the cash out. So, I get their rationale, I get their perspective, and I appreciate and respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it makes a lot of sense, and that's a nice segue that you brought me in. So thanks, Ruben. I appreciate it. So, as an investor, right? Was that your strategy to kind of like maintain a safe distance from the capital gains? You would just basically burr these properties and rely on the cash out refi in order to get a little bit more liquidity, and then go out and buy another one and continue to move, or how are you kind of handling the tax flow versus cash flow struggle that a lot of people are facing today?
Yeah, look, I mean, every investor's dream is to build a portfolio. And that was our dream. Again, we started very modestly. My father, like I said, came with very modest means. I mean, he had a family of 6, and he had about $1,500 in his pocket at the time, no place to go. So we had to figure things out and start very, very, very modestly and humbly. And my lifelong dream was to build a portfolio, but I couldn't do it right away, right? So originally we started wholesaling properties and ultimately fixing and flipping because we didn't have the option to hold on to the properties. We needed that extra liquidity. But then eventually what we started doing is refinancing and holding on to the properties, right? Because the cash flow is king. And that's what enabled us to build our portfolio of our properties today. And ultimately, as you're holding on to the portfolios, as time progresses, your loan amounts, your loan sizes that you have with your lenders are decreasing. and the value is appreciating. So what you're able to do is always tap into that equity, and that's tax free.
Right.
But I know you've mentioned, your ways and methods of being able to sell properties tax free. And I'll be honest with you, I wish I knew about this, and I wish I met you a lot sooner than I did, because I think instead of flipping properties right after wholesaling them, I would have been holding on to these properties and using your method. So I wish we met sooner, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's and the thing is with this particular strategy, it's been around for 25 years. It's done thousands of closes. Right? There's a number where it makes sense, right? Like you want to have at least $1 million in net proceeds, right? And $1 million kind of gain, because at some point there's a pain level, right? Like, so you have a property, like, you buy out in Ohio. Like we have one right now that we put under contract in Ohio. Okay. And it's, I don't know, $105,000 or something like that. You put, 50 grand into it, get it up to whatever. Right. And you turn around, you sell it for 200. Right. So you made after everything, maybe a $30,000 profit. Well, I mean, $30,000 profit, like in Ohio, like, even at a 30% is like 10 grand. So, I mean, like it's high, right? But it's not that high that it's like, oh my gosh, like I have like to get rid of it. Now, another deal that I'm working on right now, I live out in Newport Beach, and it's a very high end area, right? And these properties on the coast, right, are purchased for this guy's right now. And I'll just kind of do a case study with it real quick. But this guy purchased 2 properties, one on the beach, one like 2 houses like in from the beach, back in the late 80s and early 90s. He bought them for like 680 and like 550 grand each. So this guy's all in for like 1.2, right?
Love
and
it.
Fully after 30 years, totally fully depreciated, right? Like it has no basis anymore, right? He's maybe put 500, each into each one, but even then, right? The properties are worth realistically probably 9.5, 10 million, like together.
Oh, wow.
So he's trying to sell. So now this dude has a $9 to $10 million gain, right? And at the full, depreciated at the basis or whatever, he's got, a 37+% tax, right? That's 3.7 to like $4.1 million in capital gains tax. Like it just decimates your entire like thing. So, I'm using the Deferred Sales Trust to come into him and be like, hey, Mr. Seller, look, I can literally offer you $9.5 million, and you could get another offer for $12.75 million, and you will still make like $850,000 more at the end of the day, saving the money, putting it into a Deferred Sales Trust, not paying the tax, right? And giving me an exponentially better deal, right? And you being more realistic with your wants, right? And then actually selling, right? And you're going to put 800 grand more in your pocket going with me.
Love it.
It's like, it's trying to get them to, it's an ultra powerful strategy. And if you guys want to learn more about that, you can go to our mastermind group every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific and 1 p.m. Eastern. You can find that on our website at capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com, and go and sign up for the mastermind each group. And Ruben, I'll put you in on the group so you can peek in. It's weekly, so you can come in, ask questions, and find out what's going on. But I mean, that's how you exit like a millionaire, because at the end of the day, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. Right?
It's how much we save, right?
Yeah.
That's the key. I'll be honest with you. I'll be one of those guys tonight, in bed, on my laptop, kind of browsing through your website and learning more about it, because I think there's a lot to gain from it, not only from my perspective as an investor, but also from a perspective of a lender to be able to educate my borrowers on this new tool. So super happy that you were able to educate us on that today.
Yeah, it's an amazing strategy, and you can definitely learn more about that. So going back to kind of what we were saying, was your whole method after just like burn? Are you still holding properties, or are you liquidating, or what's your strategy right now?
Yeah, no, we're holding on to properties. I mean, we have no purpose of liquidating. I mean, we're good at where we are. We have, I mean, look, values have appreciated. Our basis on it is very low. We're good at where we are. We have the liquidity and the dry powder to do what we're doing today on the WeLend side. Although we are going to be launching our fund now to be able to go out there and raise capital from institutional investors, retail investors, and friends and family. Most of what we've been doing today is personal capital, along with some strategical partnerships with a number of private equity firms and other institutions. But I feel like now is the right time to be able to go out there and raise capital from other investors into the fund. Our projections and targeted returns are anywhere between 10 to 18%. And we first lien position against real estate from a perspective of a debt, not equity. So these are sound investments, and we're going to be launching that fund very soon. We're putting all the investor decks and the marketing material together very soon, and we're going to be excited to be able to offer it to not only your listeners but to other investors as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people go to find out more about that?
Yeah, I would love for them to reach out to me directly. They can call me at my cell, 917-815-1222. They could also email me, Ruben at WeLendLLC.com. They could also visit our website, www.WeLendLLC.com.
Great. So we'll go back over that before we head off here. But I did have one question. So as a hard money lender, right, and you're still doing your own deals, are you funding your own deals? Like, is that just basically funding with cash, or how does that work?
Yeah. I mean, we're funding it always with cash. As a hard money lender, one of the upsides and advantages that our borrowers have is that they're offering, a cash deal to their sellers, to the persons or people that they're buying the properties from. Because again, as a private lender, there are no mortgage contingencies. We're doing loans without, interior inspections. Ideally, we go inside to every property, but our appraiser does not need an interior access. We don't require bank statements. We don't require tax returns. Most of our borrowers, they're not really, they don't have like a full-time job. Their full-time job is real estate investing. So then they may not be, your mortgageable type of borrower, right? 620 credit for us is excellent credit. Although our average FICO is 693, experience is a plus, but it's not required. Although most of our borrowers are experienced, I would say about 89% of our borrowers have at least 2+ similar deals as experience. So it's a lot easier to get a private loan than it is to get a conventional type loan, and we're very proud of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's going hard money is I mean, if you're going to be a real estate investor, is the way to go. I mean, you're trying to do an FHA loan forget about it, right? This is not happening. Like, unless you have 800 credit score and you're putting 50% down, like at this point, you might as well, especially those properties, you might as well just pay cash.
And not only that, I mean, you're scaring away the seller. If you go in there and you say it's mortgage contingent specifically on FHA guidelines, I mean, no seller's going to want to commit to that. Any good attorney is going to tell the seller, look, you'd rather go with the cash buyer. Yeah, maybe $10,000 less, but you're almost secured and confident of the fact that there's going to be a closing very, very soon.
Right. Absolutely. Awesome. Cool. So, all right, Ruben, you ready for the lightning round? I forgot to tell you about that before we started, so I'm throwing this one on you.
I'm nervous and ready.
It's not that crazy of a thing. It's a couple questions.
Let's do it.
All right. So what is your favorite leadership quote?
Do what you say, right? I am huge on the old school ways of doing things, right? Although, as a graduate of law school and so on, I understand that memorializing and papering things is very important, but I'm very big on a handshake, right? If I shook your hand, or if I gave you my word, I hold true to it. And I think that's very important, not only in life, but specifically in real estate, because a lot of that does happen. Where you have something that you negotiated with a seller, with a wholesaler, investor, a realtor, and it's just a matter of a handshake, right? And I think that it's very important that you do what you say, because you never know, you might meet this person 10 years from now, and just by you holding true to your word, will bring you a tremendous amount of deals or money in the future. So I'm a strong believer of that.
Awesome. What is your favorite book?
How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I'll be honest with you, I haven't read it in a very long time, but when I did read it, I read it 5 times in and out because I just felt like it changed my life. And I was a teenager back then. It changed my life. It changes your perspective, changes your relationship. And I think it's very important that each and every person read that book. And I think right after that book, I think there's a ton of other books, but one of them is How Rich Dad Poor Dad. I think that's also a very important book for every, not only real estate investor, but entrepreneur to read.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Staples, like for sure. What are you most curious about right now?
Most curious right now about the future of the rate increases, right? We're directly affected by it on our end. Eventually, although today we haven't been affected on it on the bridge side, we have been affected on the DSCR side, which is a 30-year rental side. Right. On the bridge side, we haven't been affected on it yet, but I think within time we will be. We're all directly kind of correlated and connected to the rate increases, whether it's our facilities, whether it's our strategical partnerships and what have you. So I think that's the biggest focus for me right now is what direction it's going into, and just making sure that we're sitting on enough dry powder and we're sitting on the right security to be able to withstand any shift in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. All right, cool. So Ruben, we've kind of hit our mark here. I want to just give people one more chance to take down your phone number and your contact information. So how can people get in touch with you again?
Yeah, they can reach me directly at my cell, the same number that my kids and my wife call me on, 917-815-1222. They could also email me directly at Ruben, RUBEN, at WeLendLLC.com. And we're also on all major social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, even TikTok. Our handle is WeLendLLC. So I'd love for you guys to visit not only our social media platforms, but also our website, which is www.welendllc.com.
Awesome. And if you guys are interested in any sort of thing with the Deferred Sales Trust, you can go to our website at capitalgainstaxsolution.com. Don't forget to come to our mastermind every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up for it on the website and come out if you're interested at all. If you have a live deal, you can set up a strategy call with us. If you're out in Newport Beach and you're looking to buy or sell real estate and you have a tax problem, either you didn't know you had, then you now know, or you knew you had and you're trying to figure out a solution, you can always reach out to me. I'm Pierce at kingdomluxuryrealty.com. You can always ask for me with Brett as well at Capital Gains Tax Solutions. So multiple ways to get a hold of us. You can go to my website at kingdomluxuryrealty.com and reach out to me there. So Ruben, appreciate your time. Any final thoughts? Final word?
Thank you. No, I appreciate it. I think there's a lot to learn from your platform, and I look forward to later on tonight browsing through your website and learning whatever it is that I can for not only my own projects, but for our borrower projects too.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ruben, thanks again for your time. And thanks again, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe the most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the Deferred Sales Trust is the best way to create, preserve, and grow your wealth. Please rate, review, subscribe. We're on all the major interwebs and all that kind of stuff. So get out there, hit the bell, the notification button, the like button, the thumbs up button, whatever the heck you guys want to call it, whatever it is. Go ahead and hit it, and we'll keep you updated on everything that's coming up. Thanks again, Ruben, and
thank you.
Appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.